My name is Heather Feather. I am the owner of Rare Bird Medicine, and today's topic is empathy for all. I hope that you're getting to express some gratitude this week. This is definitely a period of the year where gratitude consciousness is very present. As a turkey baby that sometimes, I think like every 7 years or something, I have my birthday on Thanksgiving, I definitely reflect on gratitude a lot. And I think there's a reason I came in the week of gratitude. I've even worked for the World Center for Gratitude, where they focus on gratitude as an attitude and gratitude practices globally. And so I used to do that ages ago. But I just want to say, hope you're feeling grateful. We have a new year about to roll around here. And as I'm considering this topic of empathy for all, it was reminding me of when I was a young girl. I heard tell of these hippies with the hippie movement that were anti-war and how they were like peace and love. And I was like, yeah, we should be smart enough to resolve with the pen instead of the sword. Which is kind of a goofy thought because there's been foolishness in humanity since the dawn of time, and there's plenty of foolishness out there today. I know even I can be a fool from time to time, for sure. That's part of the human condition. But I thought that was kind of neat. And then somebody once told me a story about the Vietnam veterans coming back and hippies spitting on them and spitting on their feet and warmongers and stuff like this. And it broke my heart to hear that tale because although I don't like fighting and I don't like violence and I don't like war, this struck me so hard that I was like, I need to start a nonprofit to help these Vietnam veterans. Like we should go hug them and thank them. And this is a tricky topic for me. My brother and his wife, my brother served 24 years in the military in the Air Force. His wife was there for well over a decade. And so I very much respect that their children have free education as a result of the decision that my brother made. I think that's amazing. I think there's a lot of graces. I know a lot of people that are military based. My friend Mary's in Korea right now, you know what I mean, with her dope husband. And so there's a lot of cool things that can come out of that, but I don't like fighting. It's like, can we resolve this? But when I heard this about the Vietnam vets, it hurt me so bad to think that somebody goes and has an experience of war. You weren't in it. You weren't there. And they're experiencing extreme trauma and things that create complex PTSD, not just PTSD, because you're having months and months of experiences. Typically, if you're blown over, you're going to be there for a minute. And you're just watching the slaughter of life. And to spit on their feet and to spit at them or to disrespect them after such a tremendous sacrifice where they miss their families and I couldn't fathom doing, how are you a hippie? How are you pro-love? And you're going to treat someone like such human garbage? And are you so committed to being right? Or do you truly have empathy for all? There's a video I want to do a little bit later. I'm not going to do it right now, but about toxic liberals. And I always say I consider myself to be the most liberal woman in the world. That's probably an arrogant reach. My ego's like, yes, you nailed it. It's probably not true. Feels true. But the reason I say that's true for me is because I'm so liberal, I don't need you to be me. And I feel like there are a lot of people that I'm experiencing, because I typically experience a liberal viewpoint to be more empathetic to humans and a conservative viewpoint to be more empathetic to resources. And resources being inanimate objects, I don't feel like that's the higher priority. However, resources have a tremendous effect on humans. We can all agree to that. And so in that regard, I feel like all humans have a little bit of proper perspective on where we need to place our attention if we're going to heal and to be whole. And I don't, if we're going to say to honor others, then we should be honoring all. Do we have empathy for some or empathy for all? Is suffering terrible if you're a specific gender, if you're a specific color, if you're a specific sexual identification? Is that only when suffering is bad? Or is suffering terrible, and do all humans experience it, and is it unpleasant? Suffering is unpleasant. I had this dawning realization, I think it was in my late 20s, after having so much death and sexual assault and car accidents and just crazy complex PTSD myself from trauma, that I just had this moment where I was like, there's a girl right now somewhere at Earth School out of these 8 billion people that has a pimple, and she's very popular, and she has a lot of pressure from her parents about how she looks, and everything is about how she looks. And she just wants to die because she has to go to school today. And I can assume that my pain is worse because the tales I have to tell are terrible. But it is an assumption, because suffering is suffering, and suffering is unpleasant for anyone. And so for me, I have a tremendous amount. I'm not superior to anyone ever. I think like it's all atoms. It's just consciousness and atoms, and my consciousness and my collection of atoms is not superior to yours. It's actually touching yours, which is why I want to be honorable to all the atoms that I'm touching to the best of my ability in every moment and now, because you are me. We are one sea of atoms. So let me see how I can really honor you. There are a lot of things I experience having more liberal friends. I have conservative friends too, because I don't like to exclude people from my life based on their viewpoint. I'd rather like to learn, ask questions, understand one another. But I have so many people in the more liberal viewpoint that are anti-patriarchy. Down with the patriarchy. That's bias. And to me, it is not the answer. It's ignorance. We can talk about balance, but feminism is about equality of the sexes. And if we're going to talk about women's pay and women's rights and Me Too, we need to talk about men getting sexually assaulted. We need to talk about men being abused. We need to talk about men being manipulated by women and dealing with narcissistic nightmare women that are completely toxic and drama filled. And we need to give them their stage presence as well of being treated as if their only value is their productivity, being vilified often culturally if they cry. So if we're going to talk about equality of the sexes, and we look at a particular gender and go, well, women have been super oppressed, or trans people have been super oppressed, and in order to shine light on that, we have to vilify and make an enemy of men. We have missed the point altogether. We have completely missed the point. If you see someone that is xenophobic, homophobic, transphobic, just very separatist in their consciousness, and you vilify them, they're the bad guy, blah, 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 blah. They have indoctrinated you into their teaching. They have chosen hate and separation, or they have chosen judgment, or they have chosen high horse righteousness. And if you get on your high horse in response, and if you get righteous in response, they have shown you and taught you how to become them. And you've lost the point to begin with, because the point is empathy. The point was love. If you're going to say, love and honor me, please, for my gender, I'm a woman. I'm not going to ask that without having an equal amount of energy to love and honor the men of our world. I've had men do terrible things to me. Terrible. And guess what? Newsflash, everybody. I've had trans people do terrible things to me, and I've had women do terrible things to me. It doesn't matter what your genitals are doing. There are people that are being more loving in the world, and there are people that are being less loving in the world. And so there's a great loathing in the modern age that I keep touching that is very frustrating to me around white males. And so it's not just about hating men because women suffer so much and the trans community suffers so much. It's also about hating whites. White is the bad guy. I mean, ask any culture. And granted, white people have done a lot of very egregious crime-related stuff. They're often serial killers, like cannibal serial killer rapists. There's a lot of stuff that they do. However, every single culture since the dawn of time has been riddled with those that are oppressive, tyrannical, dominant, control freaks, abusive, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Every culture has that. There's not a culture that escapes it. There's not a culture on planet Earth, save some type small village that isn't connecting with the toxic ways we operate often in the modern world, that doesn't have that, doesn't have a two-legged with that flesh costume, with that XYZ gender that is being toxic. I know trans people that physically abuse their partners. So just because you're trans doesn't mean that everyone should just endlessly forever have empathy with you and we should line up all the comedians and shoot them in the head. You know what I mean? Comedy, there's self-deprecating comedy where I can make fun of myself. There's Tosh Point oh and Dave Chappelle type comedy where you make fun of everybody. And there's one of my favorite types of comedy. I love all comedy. I was watching Anthony Jeselnik last night, and he's, in my opinion, hilarious because I'm willing to laugh at everything because it's a ridiculous joke to exist in a paradigm with so much darkness where we forget the love that we be and we forget to have the empathy for everything that exists in the living tree. You know, we just go, I don't like that. I'm right. You know, it's like, okay, well, spirit allows it to exist. So why are you on such a high horse about this? And so there's observational comedy, which is my favorite types of comedians are observational comedians. Then I like comedians that make fun of everyone because it's more balanced. My least favorite is where you just make fun of yourself. I get it. I did that myself as a kid. But it makes me feel so bad for them because I'm willing to laugh at all of humanity because I'm willing to laugh at myself. I don't mind comedians that make fun of everything. And I don't need to get on a high horse about it because I understand the concept of that comedy is jokes. And we can use jokes to make fun of people. We can use jokes to make fun of ourselves, or we can use jokes to just laugh at the human condition, which usually to me takes a great intellect. I'm friends with many different people in the trans community. So I'm not saying anything anti-BIPOC, anything anti-trans. I think we have a lot of anti-communication, though, in the modern age. I can't feel this way about that. For example, if someone transitions from one gender to another, and you refer to them in their previous pronoun or previous feminine name if they've become masculine, or masculine name if they become feminine, that's called dead naming. And it's called dead naming because that person is dead. And so there's a lot of expectation that's very toxic in the liberal community where it's like, you better accept it, they're trans. And it's like, no, actually they don't have to accept it. We don't all think the same, first of all. Second of all, if someone's going to have to die, they have a right to grieve. And the second stage of grief is anger. And people have a right to get angry that they have to grieve. I went through this experience with my best friend that transitioned from female to male. And I had this weird reaction. And it's weird because I knew that I supported my friend. I knew that I'm not in control of your body, don't want to be. I also know we'll all rot off the flesh or turn to ash. And so I have no attachment to the body. Most of my life revolves around focusing on spirit and not body. But I had a reaction because the female that I used to go into restrooms and changing rooms with, and that person was dying. And so it's very arrogant to say, you should implicitly support me. Lots of people don't support me. There are people that may watch this and they'll just implicitly disagree with me. But it's also possible that you completely do not hear me because what I'm talking about is, can we have empathy? Can we truly have empathy for all? Do you need everyone to agree with you? I understand somebody that grew up, I had an ex, grew up in a tiny little Texas town. Everyone in that town is German, Catholic, pro-life. I met all these people. His mama works at the pro-life center trying to get these babies born. You know what I mean? And very, very kind of conservative, very kind of small mindset, not as open to other people, other cultures. I understand why that exists because evolution is a journey. And so to demand somebody to be home and to not be sensitive and empathetic to the journey that they've been on as they roam, to me is deeply cruel. Like, how selfish, self-centered, and malicious do you have to be like, I don't understand you and I'm going to cut you out of my life? People do this all the time. I'm going to cut them out of my life. I do recommend creating space, distance, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually from those that are expressed in every gender, every sexual identification, in every culture that are truly toxic to you. That they cause suicidal ideation in you, they are physically abusive to you, they are mentally, emotionally, and or spiritually abusive to you. Heather Feather would every swing in time advocate. It's important that we love ourselves, it's important that we honor ourselves, and it's important to take space because you matter, babe. You matter too. You're part of the pie. However, a lot of people are cutting off, you don't agree with me, and I cut off my relationship from you because I have no empathy for your existence. If you're saying honor me, honor the way I live, honor my labels, are you honoring them? Honoring the way they live, honoring their labels? Empathy is something that is available to everybody. You can actually even teach it to children. You can teach your children to be empathetic, to be aware, to be able to be outward focused, to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. Do you think that you have empathy for all, or can you consider any arena of life where there might be room to grow? in order to truly be the love that you are. You can always subscribe to Rare Word Medicine on YouTube, like and comment there. I always love to hear your thoughts. I'm Muna Sinistar.